All right, hi everyone. Josh here again with Attitudes, Team Kaizen, and Ingenium. With the last video, we taught you the basics of how to play Little Big Planet in play mode. Now we're going to go through the basics of create mode and also cover a little bit on how to build a working car. So first of all, if you haven't had a chance yet, please go to the single player mode, like I mentioned in the last video, and play through the Pop-It puzzles, because they will get you used to the idea of how to move things around, how to use the basic tools, and more stuff in this video will make sense if you do it that way. So anyways, when we're in create mode, hitting down on the D-pad, which is the directional buttons on the left side of the controller, will put you in fly mode. And while in fly mode, Sackboy or Sackgirl is just a cursor. They're just moving around, and they can't actually interact with the world. And whenever you want to pop down in the world, you just hit down again, and you're existing in the world again. If you click the right stick in, you can see your name over yourself, and that's just kind of if you're wanting to find yourself and find other players. Clicking the left stick in will put that little eye on the screen right there. That eye means you're seeing things as the player would see it in play mode, so you can get an idea of how it looks. So just like play mode, we have Pop-It, but Pop-It has a lot more options now. So first you have your goodies bag, and here you can pick different objects. Like these are all the different metals, cardboard, glass, and all the different types of materials we have. And whenever you're in a menu like this and you see those little dots at the bottom, those dots are different pages in that menu. And all you do is hit L1 and R1, like the tiny triggers on the top of the controller, to move between pages to select different items. So you have objects that you've created, objects that are created by the game developers, objects you've gotten over playing internet levels, and then of course materials to make your own. When you want to make a material, you pick it, pick your brush, and then you can hold down X and smear it into existence, or you can just tap X to tap it. And you can use the left stick to move it around, the right stick to make it bigger and rotate it. And so for instance, you can also make something really big like this, shrink it down, and hold triangle to delete smear through it. So you can make caves and that kind of stuff. A lot of people like to do that to create very realistic looking caves in their scenery. And when you, by the way, the tadpole looking thing right there is your normal Pop-It cursor. When you select it, it's just like a computer cursor. You can select stuff with X, delete stuff with triangle. And for instance, with these two blocks here, if I wanted these two blocks together, I can touch them to each other and hold down the X button until you hear that glue sound. And that means that they're now together. On the other hand, if I want them to be apart again, I just tap triangle and they're separate objects again. And if I decide I want to copy this one while I have it, click the left stick in and you'll get a ghost of it, which you can do just like I said before with the smearing or the stamping. And also if you want to mirror image something, I'll tilt this a little bit so you can tell that it's obviously getting mirror imaged. While you hold on to it, click the right stick in. And that will let you mirror image stuff. And if you notice everything's kind of floating in midair right there, that's because I recently edited them and played with them. But if I completely back out of Pop-It, they're back to having physics impact them. If you want it to set up so that the physics no longer impacts these objects, so like for instance, let's say we wanted to make a staircase here, put this one where you'd want it to be and then hit square on it. Hitting square brings up its tweak menu, and tweak menus are different depending on what object you're trying to tweak, but it gives you a bunch of different options to make that object behave differently. In this case, we can tell it whether or not it wants to obey physics. Right now, when it's on that ball logo, it's going to obey physics, but if we hit sideways and tell it to be a mountain instead, that means it will no longer obey physics, it will stay stuck where it's at in space. Like that. So we can now jump on it. So now that we've got these kinds of basics out of the way, and it's kind of a refresher from what you learned in the Pop-It puzzles, let's build a car. So I've already made this piece here where I have a flat piece that Sackboy will sit on, as well as two wheels. So what we need to do now is mount the wheels. So if you notice too, when I hit up on the D-pad, it put that pause symbol in the upper right-hand corner. That's pause mode. Pause mode just means that the physics are being ignored by everything right now. So I can technically stand on this right now, but if I unpause it, everything comes crashing down. So a lot of times when you're building a complex machine like a car, it's a lot easier to initially have it in pause mode until you have the pieces together. So we're going to move these wheels up. And then we're going to go into our other bag, which is the tools bag, which is our computer science bag. And we're going to go over to the page that has different kinds of bolts. And we want motor bolts. So if you notice, I can place the motor bolt now. If you want it to be dead center, just kind of slowly move towards dead center. And once you get there, the game will auto snap it there, and you'll kind of see it do a little snapping motion here in a second. Like right there. That means it's dead center. Now that we have these bolts like that, I can move that around, and if you notice, this thin layer that the seat platform is attached to is also right behind here. So that means I can bolt this thick layer to that thin layer since they're touching. All I have to do is get it so that the bolt is at least over that part and hit X once. So now this is one solid unit that can move around. But if we just let it go right now, two things. The wheels are turning no matter what, and they're turning very slow. So we need to make some changes here to make the car complete. So first of all, we're going to go ahead and go back to our tools bag, go to the page with all the programming bits on it, and put what's called a controlinator on it. A controlinator is a circuit board that you can mount different kinds of what we call logic on, which all these things here on this page are logic. They're representations of computer code. And it also acts as a seat that Sackboy can sit in and has different inputs that relate to the inputs of the controller, so we can actually make this thing drivable. So if you look, when I have the controlinators straight up and down like this, the very top of it ends up being the back of the seat to Sackboy. So I like to spin it 90 degrees that way, counterclockwise, so that way the back of the seat is facing towards the left side of the screen. That means when Sackboy is sitting in it, he'll be looking forward in comparison to the way the car is driving. Then we just slightly move it up until it kind of gets over that seat like that, hit X, and it's now placed. So now we have this big circuit board opened up. And one thing that you should know about controlinator seats is when you get near them, it says to hit triangle to get into the seat. And that's how Sackboy gets in. And so I like to do it in my levels that wire the triangle button right back into the controlinator. That makes it so that the triangle button is both the get in the seat button and also the get out of the seat button. And that way it's easier for the player to remember if they have one button that's assigned to both getting in and out of the seat. It just makes it easier on them. And like you learned in the Poppet puzzles, to wire anything, you just hover over that glowing output, hit the X button, and then you have the wire that you can wire into other objects. So anyways, what we're going to do here is take the input, and if you hover over those inputs, it will tell you what they are. So like right there, it says this output is left stick, left and right. So that's the one we want. We're going to hit X on it. Take that wire and wire it into the motor bolts on both tires. So now, and again, I'm clicking the left stick in to go into view mode so that you can see what it looks like in play mode. If I get in here, I should be able to control this with the left stick. Problem is, though, I haven't tweaked the wheels yet, so they're still slow, and no matter what direction I hit, it keeps wanting to go to the right. So if I want to be able to drive both forwards and backwards and go faster, we need to do some more tweaking. So now we take our Poppet cursor, which again is the tadpole, hover over the motor bolts, and hit square on them to go into their tweak menu. So the first thing we need to do is go down to the input action, which right now it's on off. We need to change that to direction, forwards, backwards. I'm going to go do that really quick on both of these. And that way it will accept both forwards and backwards input instead of just wanting to go forwards anytime it gets any input. So the next thing we need to do is speed. It's currently on 30, which is ridiculously slow. So we're going to go ahead and multiply that by 10 and put it on 300. That should give us a significant speed increase. And let's see how that handles for us. I can drive forwards, I can drive backwards and forwards. So now that we got that working the way we want, cardboard is alright for, I always build stuff out of cardboard first. when I am in my goodies menu. Like, so that's why you see the wheels and stuff built out of cardboard. Because cardboard has very clean lines, I can see where everything is interacting with each other. But once we got the machine working the way we want, cardboard can be kind of boring. So let's go ahead and go to our tools bag, go to the first page, and select that bucket icon. That will let us pick a new material and apply that material to something that already exists. So for instance, if we go down to the different kinds of rubber we have, I really like this tire rubber. So let's go ahead and make the tires out of that. For the body of the car, let's go ahead and do a cool metal, like maybe radioactive hazard. And by the way, don't panic if you don't have some of the same materials I do, because different copies of Little Big Planet will have different ones. So just use the materials that are available to you. And so now I turn this into that. And if you notice, that's glowing really bright. And also, if you look at the material there, see how that material has a little color wheel on it? That means that material can be any color. You don't have to actually sticker it to make it a different material. And so let's go ahead and tweak that material to get it, first of all, way less bright, and second of all, down to a color, or second of all, to a color we want. So I just hover over it with Pop It, hit square. And first of all, I'll go to brightness, and let's go ahead and crank that down to like 40%. And then maybe a good purple? Yeah, let's do the purple. And then when I go to tweak the other one, it's already on that purple, so I'm just going to pick that purple and then crank the brightness down to 40% as well. And if you notice, now it looks all cool like that. And making the wheels different will give it different properties and result to like traction and how much it can handle going uphill. So play around with your creation and figure out what's good for it. So for instance, for me to play around, I laid down these series of jumps. All I did was take cardboard, go to the triangle I wanted, spin it around to where I wanted it, enlarged it, and then placed it in the ground and made sure that it kind of overlapped with the ground a little bit, so that way it was stuck in the ground when it got placed. And now that we have these jumps, we can test the car and see if it works. And there, so okay, we cleared one jump. And notice that it's going, you know, that this car can drive upside down because I made the wheels bigger than the actual body of the car. But let's tweak it a little bit, because that was cool, it kind of worked. But still at 300, it wasn't getting us the air that we wanted. So let's crank it to 600. There, we got a little bit more air. We're actually making it to the jumps. Let's see if it makes it over the last one. It did. And now, before we end the video, because every time we teach this in a live version of Little Big Planet Club, at least one kid has to do this. We're going to crank them up all the way, because I know you want to see that. So we're cranking them both to 1500, which is as fast as they can spin. And now we're going to see what happens. So that's kind of your homework for today. Make a car and tweak the different aspects of it, like how fast it can go and all that kind of stuff. And then build a world around it and make an obstacle course so that people can have fun trying to navigate terrain with your car. So with that, thank you very much, and hope you enjoyed this video.